You have to be into it. And that, it seems to me, something I've learned as a performer as well. You have to be immersed in it. You can't be thinking of technique. You can't be thinking of the words. You have to be involved in a unity with whatever it is you're playing or doing. And that's something I seek whenever I'm doing anything. I've taken 7 hours of helicopter lessons, for example. And between the collective and then the other thing. But between the pedals and the collective, what's the other thing? The cycle. Thanks. My instructor will be very happy, I know what to tell you. So between doing all this, if you're thinking, which the beginner student with 7 hours is thinking of the thing, although I fly a plane, the plane, you can be unified with the plane, but a helicopter is even that much more difficult. So I am yearning for the time when I can be part of that helicopter and using essentially what you do on a raining horse, which is thinking and knowing that your arms and legs are going to follow through and the mechanics are going to be there. I suspect that everybody involved in the kind of work you people do here, technology, involved in discovery, you have to be part of that discovery. The discovery comes as a nice surprise, but it's sort of there all the time, I would think. That's the way it is as a performer. You finally get the performance, but it's been there all the time. Does that strike a chord?
Oh, it does. What you're kind of describing that I sense is there's a lot of preparation, right? You prepare for the moment, and you get very confident in that particular skill, whether it's flying a helicopter or flying a plane, to the point where you can do it unconsciously and you're confident.
You know, I've seen, there was a bit up there, somebody writing a formula on a blackboard. I used to see that at university. Like, whoa, what are they doing? You know, in a class I'm supposed to be attending. But I've seen mathematicians go to a board, get at the end, and they're writing down formulas, and then they're to the fifth and the seventh, and they've got all these things going on that I have no comprehension. That bothers me a great deal. I mean, I know a lot about, I know a little about a lot of things. So, like, I look at a plumber, you know, doing, working on the toilet. I go, well, I can do that. I can do that. I understand that the centrifugal force, the thing, the plunger, you go. I understand that. But this guy writing this formula and getting philosophy of mathematics is beyond my ken. It bothers me. Does it bother you?
Now it does.
But he's at one with that formula. It's spewing out of his mind. His hand can't write fast enough to follow his mind. He's not thinking, what am I doing, or what's the next thing. He is spewing it out. He's vomiting on the blackboard. It's great. It's fantastic.
No, it is. That's a skill. So let me ask a different question to you, and it has to do with...
If you ask the same question, I'd give the same answer.
We were talking backstage, and when I look at the success you've had in your career, particularly when Captain Kirk, right, Star Trek, and we're all big fans. You know, they're hooting and hollering from everywhere. Yeah,
okay.
They turn that way too. But when you have that, give them applause. There you go.
In Shakespeare terms, those are the groundlings. They carry knives.
But this whole topic of having so much success with that particular character, many of your peers can never break away from that character. You seem to have done it not only in that role, but you've been successful and won multiple Emmys portraying other characters. How did you reinvent yourself?
Well, you know, I don't, Carlos, I don't understand the term reinvention. I hear that all the time. You've reinvented yourself, like Cisco's come up with a new, whatever Cisco. The word is router, I know. I was a dummy in business, but not in technology. I don't understand the term reinvention. What I do understand is evolution.
Okay.
So that, and I'm trying to sort of make it so Cisconian, but I'm going to forget that and go with my own experience. If you do something, for example, facing thousands of people without knowing what you're going to say next is a daunting task, right? I mean, it's bad enough knowing what you're going to say is daunting enough if you haven't prepared a script and there's just no member. But speaking extemporaneously in front of thousands of people and hoping the F-bomb doesn't drop. So that, how do you get to that point? Well, in this instance, for example, I did a show called Star Trek, and they did, several years later, somebody organized a few hundred people into a convention. And they said to me, would you come to a convention? I'm not going to go to a convention. Who's going to be there? People with masks on? I'm not going to go there. I'm an actor. I'm not a monkey on a... or a puppet in a... So I didn't go to the first convention until they told me there were 15,000 people there. I thought, well, 15,000 people, I think I better go. So I started speaking and talking, really, in front of a lot of people who would ask me a question. And I'd give them the best answer I could think of. And try to make it amusing and try to make it informative. Well, that made me accustomed, more than accustomed, confident that I could amuse you all for a short period of time. and so I could come out in front of a large group of people. So, having that confidence, one day, recently, I was asked to do a sitcom called, I can say it here, Shit My Dad Said. That was last year, and it was canceled for this year, but it was, I agree. But doing a sitcom in front of an audience is a totally different entity than anything else in show business. I didn't realize it. When the audience, 40 people came in to sit down to watch me do lines that I barely knew because they were being changed as we were talking, I fell back on this experience of being at conventions, being accustomed, knowing that you are looking at me as a friend. I'm going to say, hey, I'm in a bit of trouble here. I don't know quite what I'm doing. Bear with me. And you go, oh, okay. And that goes for every single individual in the thousands of, they don't become insidious, they become my friends. And that's what I gained from the conventions to the sitcom. Sitcom is canceled, and I'm asked to do a one-man show in Australia. So I go to Australia, and I sit like this for 2 hours and talk, not unlike we're doing right now. Because the first convention, which I didn't want to go to, resulted in the second convention, which I did go to, and the many conventions that I went to in which I talked like this. I ended up doing a wonderful one-man show in Australia, which I'm going to do in Canada in the fall, and try and perfect that, maybe bring it to the United States if it's good enough. All because I said yes to the convention.
Well, so
So it's not reinventing, it's evolutionary.
Great answer. So let's throw up another word there. You know, I view you to be very creative in the small time that you shared here. So what role has creativity played, and any suggestions? You know, how do you develop creativity, and how do you use it in what you do?
That's a very difficult question, creativity. Everybody's creative. We start with that premise. Every single one of us. And every infant, from infancy to old age, to when you're dying. I mean, I think you can die creatively. I hope. Because I'm going to try it. What's his name? The drug meister who died.
Kevorkian.
No, not Kevorkian.
Larry.
Timothy Leary. Timothy Leary died some years ago. And what he purportedly said in his last breath was something that has resonated in me. And that was, he apparently opened his eyes and said,